And now on BBC One, David and Luke once again take a look over Jon Pertwee Era Doctor Who with another episode of We Need to Talk About.
Hello and welcome to another episode of We Need to Talk About ... This is a socially distanced special edition. Once again, I am your humble host, the Big Daddy D, David Mabley, and I'm joined by my good friend and fellow Doctor Who fan, Luke Murphy. Oh, hello.
Hello.
And also,
actually here now. I'm not going to get a mention.
And also,
no, you're not.
stood in the background, somewhat awkwardly, is Josh Bray.
Hiya. Like, I don't get a mention half these times, but
No,
you know.
no, you don't. Right, back on the money.
This is the problem.
So, whilst the world is still a little bit mad, you know, we're having to wear masks while we're going out shopping, etc. We're taking a break from the usual short list of films that we would normally look at, and we're taking a look at some classic 70s Doctor Who, particularly the Jon Pertwee era. Splink?
Splink!
Splink!
SPLINK! SPLINK! SPLINK!
So,
So you want me to talk now?
yeah, go for it, yes.
I'm sorry, I've been in lockdown for about 5 or 6 months. I've always been talking to my family, so I don't know how to converse with other people apart from my family.
I mean, I've put like another stone on in weight, so yeah, that lockdown's affected me as well, mate. So,
Right. It's affected us all, mate. You know.
so
There we are. Hello. Yes. Yeah.
So once
Wild
again,
world and what have you. Yeah. Spicy.
So once again, we're looking at another slice of 70s Doctor Who that involves death, destruction, lots of drilling, and the taking of Doctor Who in a different direction, as we take a look at the 7-part serial Inferno. Shall we roll the opening titles at this point?
Might as well. You know.
Okay, roll titles.
There you go.
Right. As mentioned in our previous episode where we covered Spearheading Space, this particular era of Doctor Who finds our favourite time-travelling hero exiled to Earth by his fellow Time Lords. The reason for this was because of the rising production costs at the BBC, making it difficult for the Doctor to be on a different alien planet every episode.
That's Delphon, but how do you do?
Although the decision to have the Doctor stranded did make sense in order to keep the show going. I mean, at the end of the day, though, he was now stuck on one planet and in one particular time period, unable to travel in space and time due to the TARDIS being deactivated by the Time Lords. This meant that the Third Doctor now had his storylines extremely limited to either dealing with an alien invasion or a mad scientist.
Eventually, the Doctor's exile would be lifted following the events of the Three Doctors, and he would be able to travel the cosmos again. But despite these restrictions put in place, the Doctor's Earthbound adventures would be some of the best stories of the 70s, one of which we're going to be taking a look at today, the 7-part thrilling serial Inferno, and the season finale to Jon Pertwee's first year of Doctor Who.
Inspired by the real-life project Molehole in the 1960s, which intended to drill deep into the Earth to find new resources of energy, Inferno echoes this with a prototype drilling project to drill through the Earth's crust and release the recently discovered Stahlmann's gas, named after the aggressive and rather stubborn scientist in charge of the project, Professor Stahlmann.
From the very start, it's very clear that the two Doctors do not get on well with each other at all, and that our beloved Time Lord has a few choice words to say to the arrogant Stahlmann.
Yes, well, I'll tell you something that should be of vital interest to you, Professor.
But what?
That you, sir, are a nitwit.
And the Doctor's not the only one who's getting rubbed up the wrong way over Stahlmann, as Sir Keith Gold, an ally of the Doctor and UNIT, has a number of concerns over Stahlmann's disregard for proper safety precautions and his obsessive goal of tapping the gas as soon as possible. regardless of the consequences, it seems.
Well, I saw the malfunction report on number 2 pipe several days ago. I saw no report of its repair. I assumed you must have overlooked it.
I overlook nothing, Sir Keith. The malfunction on number 2 pipe's not sufficient to warrant a stoppage in the drilling.
These consequences include a strange green substance beginning to leak from some of the machines, and anyone who is unfortunate, or just bloody stupid enough to touch it, later become horribly mutated, eventually changing into savage, werewolf-esque creatures called primoids, who can only be killed by being exposed to extreme levels of cold. So, you best keep a fire extinguisher on standby.
What are you doing with that microcircuit?
You do well to mind your own business, Doctor.
The computer is a threat to you, isn't it? It could prove you wrong. Now give me that microcircuit.
I have it!
Doctor!
Following a heated argument with the Doctor, which results in the Time Lords bringing out a bit of the old Venusian Aikido, Stahlman is in a foul mood. Furious with the Doctor and wanting to secure a greater power supply for his drilling project, Stahlman decides to suddenly cut the power from the Doctor's own experiment to get the TARDIS working again. What a bastard!
This sudden cut in power sends the Doctor hurtling sideways through time to a parallel world, an alternative version of Earth where units are the bad guys that rule over Britain as a fascist government.
Unity is strength.
In this reality, the royal family were all executed during the Second World War, and now UNIT controls all of England, with firing squads and slavery being all typical aspects of the day-to-day schedule.
Liz, it's me. Don't you recognize me?
This alternative reality version of UNIT has its own version of the drilling project, with an equally arrogant, if that was actually possible, version of Professor Stahlman in charge of the proceedings, with the progress of this experiment happening slightly faster, possibly due to the totalitarian regime in power there.
Unfortunately, this reality also has primoids lurking around, looking even more feral than before, and with blue fur that makes them look like Beast from the X-Men on a bad day. It also transpires that both versions of Stahlman have become infected by the green gloop due to his refusal to wear safety gloves. Currently only at the early stages of the change, Stahlman keeps this knowledge to himself until it's too late.
The Doctor's regular companions are now all darker, evil versions of those that we know and love, with Liz now sporting a black bob haircut and military clothing, and Lethbridge Stewart now with an eye patch rather than his regular moustache. Yes, that's right, it's the evil version of every dimension. Even lovely Benton, cuddly, lovely Benton, is now a baddie. Unlike Star Trek, though, no one has a goatee. In fact, Professor Stahlman loses his goatee in the evil dimension.
You would be wise not to be so flippant, Luke, about alternative realities. They're very real, I assure you. And if you want to talk about additional facial hair, well, Benton gets some of that in the alternative reality later on. Well, having said that, he gets additional hair everywhere, really. The regular cast members are all clearly having fun playing as their evil counterparts, but not to the point of silly moustache twirling and anything like that. Nicholas Courtney in particular is clearly relishing the opportunity to play a bad guy. Rather than the Brigadier being a stoic and brave man like he normally is, this alternative version of Brigade Leader Lethbridge Stewart is cowardly and a bully, becoming more and more unhinged as the story goes on. Liz, on the other hand, shows that there is still some goodness left in her despite living in this strange and evil world, as she takes the Doctor's side at the end and even shoots the Brigade Leader dead so that the Doctor can get back home, even though everyone else on the planet will be left behind to suffer the consequences of Stahlman's experiment.
Now's your chance, Doctor!
The scenes set in the project control room benefit from really excellent sound design, with the tension building and building as the drill gets louder and louder to the point where some of the characters actually have to shout in order to be heard. It is a brilliant and very, very scary and unsettling way of creating this atmosphere that the story exists in.
Like Spearhead in Space, Inferno at times looks very cinematic in tone. There is some excellent editing for the violent scenes, especially for a 1970s television programme where the scene quickly cuts away to leave the really horrible bits to your own imagination. Not to mention the excellent record-breaking stunt work that goes on in this episode, including this impressive moment where a Primoid, after getting shot at, does a swanton bomb off the top of a cooling tower that even Jeff frickin' Hardy would be proud of.
This location gives Pertwee the chance to be the dapper man of action that his third Doctor would be known for, a far cry from the actions of his two predecessors. I mean, like Spearhead from Space, this is a genuinely good storyline to introduce yourself to this particular incarnation of Doctor Who. One that took inspiration from Quatermass, as if we haven't spoken about Quatermass before in this programme. But it is here where that influence is perhaps most deeply felt.
How thick are those walls?
Well, thick enough. Ferrous concrete, steel plating, asbestos sheeting, the lot. It'd stand up to an atomic blast.
Compared to the forces that you people have unleashed, an atomic blast would be like a summer breeze.
The Doctor soon realises that despite his best efforts, he has arrived at this location far too late to stop this global disaster from happening. So we see what could happen if the Doctor doesn't escape this reality and return to his own before the same horrible mistakes can be repeated there.
Go on, Doctor, go now!
I can't, it's so too erratic.
The DVD we're looking at is the 2013 2-disc special edition. Ooh. The main reason for buying this re-release straight away is its improved picture quality. It's instantly noticeable when compared with the 2006 release, and makes the film and video transitions less jarring. The picture quality is so sharp that it could be mistaken for the third Doctor's dress sets. Oh, and this particular serial hasn't had the Blu-ray treatment yet at the time of recording this, so this DVD really is the one to go for at the moment if you're wanting a top quality version of this serial.
The extras on the DVD are plentiful. Doctor Forever, Lost in the Dark Dimension, is a documentary that focuses on the wilderness years of Doctor Who, following the cancellation of the show in 1989, and how the mythos refused to die, continuing in various novel and comic forms, whilst various production companies all tried to their utmost to take control of the show's future on both the small and the big screen. It was an extremely frustrating time for Doctor Who fans from 1989 to the show's eventual resurrection in 2005. Obviously, there was the McGann movie in 1996. But during this period, the BBC seemed to be quite content in essentially making one bad decision after another with the show. And they did, and often.
The documentary manages to maintain a balance between light-hearted talking head interviews and interesting new facts, including a story that was planned, The Dark Dimension. This story was going to feature several incarnations of the Doctor all together at once, battling a main villain that was going to be played by Rick Mayall, if you can imagine that. In the end, the story wasn't made due to a massive miscalculation into the budget needed to make the film. It was going to be a film released directly to video. And some of the other Doctor Who actors weren't particularly happy that their version of the Time Lord wasn't going to get as much screen time when compared to others. It was very definitely a fourth Doctor story. Bear in mind this was sort of made after the time of Sylvester McCoy, and Tom Baker said that he was quite happy to sort of come back and help get Doctor Who sort of kick-started again. So this was going to be a fourth Doctor story, which, as you can imagine, left Sylvester McCoy and some of the other Doctors feeling a bit put out. But the film didn't happen in the end, although some of the ideas for this did end up going into a charity special. Yeah, more on that in a moment. So this film didn't really sort of take off, but there was a Doctor Who film that did. The documentary then goes on to cover the long-awaited TV movie starring Paul McGann and how it ultimately fails to reboot the show. And it's probably just as well, because if you'd have had about 3 or 4 years of like an American version of Doctor Who with car chases and shooting and things like that, and Paul McGann, you know, Paul McGann's Doctor snogging his assistant and saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm half human." The mindset is that probably would have killed off Doctor Who stone dead for good. So it's probably just as well that this didn't happen. After that, the documentary then seems to conveniently skip over the following 9 years in approximately 3 minutes in order to get on to what came next, when Russell T Davies was able to successfully reboot the show himself. Perhaps we'll cover the TV movie another time. It certainly is an interesting part of Doctor Who's history. Maybe that's a future episode we can take a look at. So, it does seem to be a rather odd documentary to be featuring on this disc, considering that the documentary covers Doctor Who at arguably its lowest point, when it's on a DVD that contains arguably Doctor Who at one of its highest points, but it's still an interesting watch nevertheless.
Haydock meets Havoc. Now, this is a great little documentary where stand-up comedian and Doctor Who fan Toby Haydock meets and interviews all the surviving members of the Havoc stunt team, which were very prominent in this era of Doctor Who. The team get the chance to see each other again for the first time in many, many years, just to talk and reflect about their work on Doctor Who, which was very, very nice to see. Haydock also finds himself doing a stunt as well, but don't worry, it was supervised by the team. Very, very quickly on Toby Haydock, if nobody has ever listened to Moth Save My Doctor Who scarf, and I think he did a drama version of it as well on BBC Radio 4. He also does a podcast as well, which I think you can still get via the Big Finish website, where he was interviewing one person from every story of Doctor Who. And considering that there's quite a lot of stories from Doctor Who, that's quite a lot of interviews. A lot of it is very, in actual fact, all of it is very, very good. And there's quite a lot of famous faces that he does actually interview. Very, very good. Well worth a listen. Please do so.
The special edition of the DVD also contains all the features from the original release of the DVD, including its very interesting making of the episode documentary entitled "Can You Hear the Earth Scream?" It turns out that Inferno didn't exactly have an easy production behind the scenes. Not only were there concerns that a 7-part storyline would drag on for far too long and wouldn't keep the audience captivated, more on that in a moment, but at one point the original director actually fell ill during the production, leading to Barry Letts having to step in to complete the studio scenes. Problems on set also included a stunt going wrong when one stuntman actually did end up getting hit by Jon Pertwee driving Bessie for real when he didn't get out of the way in time. To give the stuntman credit, he insisted on performing the stunt another 2 times before he eventually went to hospital. Good man.
And then we have the commentary, and I will try and read this as best I can without crying, and you'll understand why in a minute. The commentary is a good-natured natter between Nicholas Courtney, Barry Letts, and Terrance Dicks, and sadly we don't have them anymore, which is a great shame. So any Doctor Who commentary track on any of the DVDs or the Blu-rays or what have you, with these 3 involved, get it, listen to it, just watch the programme with these 3 listening to it, because, Barry Letts and Terrance Dicks defined this era of Doctor Who. Nicholas Courtney is the Brigadier. Give it a listen. It is wonderful to hear them speak about a programme that they were in, worked on, loved, etc. Just please do that. Moving on very, very quickly. We also have a 60-second trailer for the next DVD release salon with some delete scenes. There's a feature on the Unit family, an introduction to the Pertwee years, which was an old video, VHS. There's a BBC visual effects promo on there as well. And you even get the 1971 Doctor Who annual if you stick the DVD in your laptop. I mean, what more could you want from that?
Inferno, for a 7-part serial, largely manages to avoid feeling padded despite it being almost 3 hours long in total. 7-part series was something that had carried over from the Patrick Troughton era, but the new regime of Barry Letts and Terence Dicks were concerned that having such a long-running storyline might drag on a bit. So they came up with subplots that could keep the momentum going and keep the narrative exciting. In Inferno's case, this resulted in the parallel universe concept that turned out to be the most memorable part of an already gripping scenario. As a result, Inferno is a thrilling enough story to watch through in one sitting. In terms of eking out tension, parts 3 to 6 in particular are amongst the greatest in the show's history. And what a way to end a series. Inferno brought Jon Pertwee's first season as the Stuck-on-Earth Doctor to a close, and it did so in style.
After this, unfortunately, there will be no more Doctor Who stories that will be transmitted in 7 episodes. Although Jon Pertwee's Earthbound Doctor and the new format had been successful enough to guarantee another series the following year, Letts and Dicks will be taking the show into a very, very different direction during the next season, which was going away from the Quatermass style of episodes. A lot more action-packed, kind of like I hate to use the word classic kind of like Doctor Who, but it is classic Doctor Who. We'll get to those in a minute, because it does get rather masterful.
This serial was also the last regular appearance of Caroline John in the role of Liz Shaw, which is a shame considering that she's playing 2 different versions of herself here. Sadly, Caroline John didn't get to film a proper exit scene, and in the following year's opening story, Terror of the Autons, we discover that Liz has taken herself back to Cambridge, leaving a space in the lineup for the Doctor's new companion, Jo Grant, played by Katie Manning.
I'm your new assistant.
Oh, no.
This story would be the very first appearance of another memorable Doctor Who character, one that will go on to be a considerable thorn in his side for years to come.
Who the heck are you? Well?
I am usually referred to as the Master.
Oh, is that so?
Universally.
But more on that next time. Yes, I feel we definitely need to cover a story with the Master at some point.
So, we're doing a trilogy of Pertwee stories then, are we?
At the very least, yes. We do enjoy doing our trilogies of film reviews here on the show. We did the Chop Socky movie review trilogy, we did the Public Information trilogy, and I feel that, yeah, we've got to do a Jon Pertwee Doctor Who trilogy. I mean, although we could quite easily turn this entire YouTube channel into a Doctor Who appreciation channel, I think after doing a third Jon Pertwee story, and, you know, we've got an idea of what that third story is that we're going to cover, I think after that we'll give Doctor Who a break for a while. I mean, after all, there are other films that we'd like to review here on the show, right, Luke?
No, oh God, no.
Besides which, I'm sure we're going to return to Doctor Who again, whether we continue to do this whilst working from home, or when we sort of continue to do it when we're back in the bunker. There's a couple of Tom Baker era stories that I think we'd like to do a full open discussion, open sort of chat about once we're back in the bunker together. And these are like 2 stories considered to be amongst the very best in Doctor Who. So again, more sort of future episodes to consider.
Liz's life after leaving uni was not explored in the series, although she would appear in a number of Big Finish audio plays, several New Adventures novels. In the 7th Doctor story, Battlefield from '89, the Doctor gives a fake ID with the name Elizabeth Shaw on it. Additionally, she gets a mention in the Sarah Jane Adventures in the episode of Death of the Doctor. Colonel Karim mentions that Miss Shaw can't get back from the moon base until Sunday or something like that. So she was definitely still kicking around. In actual fact, we very, very touched on in the DVD extras about the wilderness years about Doctor Who and what have you. During the wilderness years of Doctor Who, BBC Video produced a number of spin-offs from Doctor Who. One of them was called Probe, which stood for the Preternatural Research Bureau, or something like that. And Liz Shaw was the main character in this, so it's kind of like a British X-Files type of thing. Well worth actually tracking down. Very, very, very difficult to find, to be honest with you. They only ever, I think there may be DVDs available on them. I'm not entirely sure, but really quite good. A lot of Doctor Who actors were involved in it. At least, I think in the very, very first one, Doctors 3, 5, 6, and 7 turn up. In sort of playing in different characters. So Jon Pertwee was in it, and Colin Baker and Peter Davison and Sylvester McCoy are in it. Obviously playing different characters. Can't mention Doctor Who. It doesn't mention, none of these things mention Doctor Who, but it's just characters. And most of these stories were actually written by some guy called Mark Gatiss. Not entirely sure what happened to him.
Caroline John also appeared as an illusionary image of Liz in the 20th anniversary television special The Five Doctors in 1993. And she appeared as Liz herself in the 1993 Children in Need charity special Dimensions in Time, where the Doctor and his various reincarnations and companions find themselves trapped in London's East End in what is a bizarre crossover between Doctor Who and the British soap opera EastEnders. Yes, this is what the Dark Dimension eventually turned into, if you can believe that. Hey Luke, maybe we should cover this in a future episode as well.
No, oh God, no, we are not ever covering Dimensions in Time. Not now, not ever, not in the future, no little joke or something like that with you crunching an apple or anything like that. I would rather review the apple than review Dimensions in Time. We're not doing Dimensions in Time, ever. It's not happening. Nada, zip, not happening. Ever. Full stop, that's it. Oh, I think I may have went a little bit too far there.
Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Again, this is just an excuse to pull out some random DVDs we've got lurking about in our cupboard, you know, whilst the world's still a bit mad at the moment, and just talk about them. And it just so happens that what we picked up so far has been Doctor Who DVDs. If you liked this video, then please leave a like and a comment and share this video across your various social media, in particular with any fans of classic Doctor Who. And we'll see you again next time when we pull another random DVD from the cupboard. But what will it be? Will it be this? Or will it be this? See you next time.